You're listening to audio from University Baptist Church in Beaver Creek, Ohio. Our mission is to make wholehearted followers of Jesus Christ who know him and make him known. Please enjoy this podcast and visit us at ubcbeavercreek.com for more information.
Welcome to UBC Talking Points. Our purpose is to make wholehearted followers of Jesus Christ who know him and make him known through ministry and theological conversations. This is another episode of the subseries Stories from the Field. In this series, we hear from and highlight our local, national, and global missions. Today's Stories from the Field episode highlights our student ministry trip to Utah this summer. I'm excited. I'm Jen Hart, your host today, and I'm excited to be able to hear from each of our students and student leaders who are here with us to be able to share about this recent trip. So first, we're going to go around and let everybody introduce themselves to our listeners. So we're going to go from my right here, introduce who you are and a little bit about your role at UBC.
Hi, I'm James Schell. I am a junior in high school, and I've been going to UBC for about 10 years now. And my mom works there. She is the kids ministry director, and my dad works at Cedarville. And I go to the student ministry there, led by Rob. And I've been following my faith ever since. I mean, I was saved in like second grade, so it's been real cool. So
thanks, James.
Awesome. I'm Rob Sloffman. I'm the director of student ministry. I've been at UBC for about 4 years now and love working with students and just the opportunities and hearing from our students. So this is going to be fun.
I'm Lillian Hunley. I'm a senior in high school. I've been going to UBC for about 5 or 6 years. And I've been walking with the Lord since I was 7. And I'm also plugged in at STUMIN, and I also serve in the U Kids department.
Awesome.
I'm Faith Judkins. I've been going to UBC for about a year, and I've known Jesus since I was like 7 or 8. And I have a lot of Mormon friends, so this mission trip was just a blast.
Well, I think we are all in for a treat today. I'm excited to hear more about what God did this summer on your trip. But before we dig into some of the details of the trip, to get things started on an important note, if you were a Pixar movie character, which one would you be?
Me personally, I think I'm a little bit of like two characters. I think I'm a little bit of Doug from Up and a little bit of Tow Mater from Cars. Just both of them.
Excellent.
It's quite the combination. I both have similar characteristics there.
I mean, yeah.
Incredible. I don't know if I would be this character or I just like this character, but I really like Buzz Lightyear.
To infinity and beyond.
That's right.
I want to say I'd be Joy from, what is it? The
Inside Out?
Inside Out, yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I'd be her. Or I'd hope to be her anyway.
I'm a pretty down-to-earth person, so I think I'd be Mr. Potato Head. Toy Story.
I see.
Excellent. Did you provide some comic relief on the trip this summer? Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know that you are all part of our student ministry, and I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but the student ministry goes by the name STUMIN, and I think we were probably at UBC for about a year before I figured out why it was called STUMIN. It's the shortened words, student ministry, STUMIN. So for any of our listeners who may have been a little late to the party like I was, the rest of the time we'll refer to it as STUMIN, and that's just our student ministry for our teens at UBC. But give us a quick window into what STUMIN looks like at UBC. When do you meet? What's something you love about it? What do you do during your time there? James, you said you've been there a long time. You're probably an expert.
I mean, yeah, it starts in 6th grade and goes up until senior year. It's very engaging because like the people there, it's a lot of your friends that you know, like it could be from your school or just like throughout your community. And so I have a lot of friends in that community. So it's a lot of fun being there because we usually do like worship and then Rob leads all of it. And we do games at the beginning, which is a lot of fun. It gets us going. It's like an icebreaker. And then after his message...
Just to clarify, I do not lead worship.
Oh, no, he doesn't know.
You were like, you blended those two so fast. And I'm like, no.
we have a student worship band. I'm not a part of that. I don't think I could be. I'm a part of the tech team though, so I help with sound and slides sometimes. But after worship, we do a message, and then we lead in small groups, which is really fun because you get to engage with people in your grade and really dive deep into the message. And it's pretty fun. It's only an hour and a half of your time, and it's worth it.
Sounds like you pack a lot into that 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Ladies, what's a favorite part, or what do you love about STUMIN?
I'd say one of my favorite parts is probably just the conversations I get to have with my group of girls. It's really to go deep into the world, the message and the word, and just we're very personal, and then we're able to just share actual testimonies and stories when it's not surface level, which I really appreciate. And I think that's probably one of my favorite parts. I like to be really relational.
I really appreciate how the people in our small groups are from all over. It's not just people from our school, but from Christian schools and homeschoolers. So you really see a lot of different sides of people in the world and their interpretations of the word. So you really get to learn a lot.
Lots of different perspectives to be able to balance things out, it sounds like. So Rob, for some of our listeners who might have young people or even be teens themselves that might want to get involved in STUMIN, how could they become part of what's going on?
Yeah, so we meet on Sunday nights from 5:30 to 7. One of the things that Faith said was really cool was it's not just one school or one group of students. It's just a wide variety of schools. I think we have over 18 different middle schools and high schools represented in our group, which is a lot. But it's also just really cool to see how, for the most part, somebody knows somebody else from their school or has a connection in some ways. But getting involved would just be even just going into our website and clicking on our ministries, and you can find out more that way, or you can just send us an email, students@ubcbeavercreek.com, and we'd love to reach out to you guys and get you involved.
Awesome. So now we're all itching to hear a little bit more about this trip that you went on. And I know this was not the first missions trip that the Student Ministries has gone on. I think you've been on trips the last 2 or 3 years, not even the first trip to Utah. But help us understand why you've gone to Utah the last couple years, and just a little bit about that area and what they're up to there.
Well, I would say there's definitely a big need for Christianity. A lot of the people there are very lost, and Mormonism is a very interesting religion in the fact that they think that it's just the truth, and so it's hard to rationalize other things or hear other perspectives because they're very certain that this is the truth. And so there's really a need for Christianity and for the actual gospel truth. Yeah, but STUMIN has gone on a couple of trips. We've gone twice to Utah, and then before that, our first trip was to Michigan. We went to Benton Harbor, so that was really cool.
So Rob, tell us a little bit more about who STUMIN is connected with out in Utah that you partnered with for this trip.
Yeah, so we've connected with an organization called Plant Camp, and they exist to plant churches in the Salt Lake City area. One of the things that's so interesting about the Salt Lake City area, it is less than 2% evangelical Christianity. What that means in terms of missions and missiology is that the requirements for being an unreached people group is 5% or lower evangelical. And we see Salt Lake City is at 2%. And so their goal, their desire is just to continue to plant churches that are gospel believing, so that at some point they reach that 5% threshold, and that someone or Christians in Salt Lake City will eventually know at least one other Christian. And part of their goal is just to partner with churches to continue plant churches there, and to just spread the gospel to people there that are primarily Mormon.
So it sounds like there's a strategic plan for that area and how to allow the gospel to be able to be spread in that area where there is a great need for it to be heard. So what was the church that you partnered with this summer through Plant Camp?
Yeah, so we worked with, I think it was Gospel Hope Church in Riverton, Utah. And every year, one of the things that kind of Plant Camp comes along with them is that every year they have a Old Town Days around the 4th of July in Riverton, Utah. And so it used to be, one of the cool things is that this church, Gospel Hope, has just been so incredible around that 4th of July holiday in reaching their community that where the Mormon church used to run a lot of the stuff with the festival and different things, and the youth groups kind of bowed out and not committed to that anymore. So as the plant camp kind of came in and helped this church support the community has just kind of come around this church and said, hey, we love it that you are so excited to do this, to reach out to the community, that the Mormon church has kind of said, hey, we need to get our kids to do this again. And the city's actually said, no, we're going to let Gospel Hope continue to do this because they're doing it so well. And so they just have this natural way to reach this city and this community for the gospel. And every summer, as different youth groups kind of come, they love on this community so well. And it leaves a lasting impact into the city of Riverton.
Awesome. How many students from STUMIN were able to go on this trip this summer?
Oh, goodness. Who remembers? How many was it?
I think did we have 11?
I think it was 11. Yeah, that was a quick pop quiz. Yeah, 7 girls and 4 guys.
Now, wow.
Statistician for you.
I wouldn't have remembered that, but that's incredible. Yeah, we took 11 students, 4 leaders, and it was a great group that God just kind of brought together and gelled together for this trip.
How long were you out in Riverton?
It was a week. It was Sunday to Sunday.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, this is kind of a fun fact. One of the plant pastors for Gospel Hope Church, Caleb Sturgis, was someone that was part of the youth ministries. Actually, he was still in elementary ministry at the church when I lived down in the Atlanta area, the church that we were part of. And I did backyard Bible clubs with his mom in their neighborhood. And so I know that their family has been passionate about spreading the gospel for a long time. But it was so cool for me to hear, not having kept up with all the details of where he was at in his life since we moved away from there, to hear that the Lord's using him in that way out there. And I think it's cool to fast forward another 10 years and see where some of you may be after following the Lord and these steps now of going on some of these mission trips too. Who knows? Maybe you'll be planting one of those churches or serving one of those churches in your adult ministry too. So the 3 of you, what caused you to decide to sign up and go on this trip this summer to Utah?
Like I said, I have a lot of Mormon friends, and I had originally been doing a lot of research on my own time about the Mormon faith and what they believe, so I could witness to my friends. So this trip popping up just kind of seemed like a sign from God to do it more, and that it just seemed super awesome that I would get the opportunity to go all the way to Utah to share the gospel with them. So I just felt like this was God's, big sign.
Yeah, it's like your story, Faith, is really cool because you have just been with our youth group a little bit over a year, and we started announcing this trip. You were just getting plugged in, but the second you hit Beaver Creek High School and moved to this area, you started reaching your friends for Christ. And I remember that first month or two, you brought this friend to youth group and you're like, Rob, this is my Mormon friend, but she's not Mormon anymore because she put her faith and trust in Christ. And I'm like, whoa, that's cool.
That's awesome. How about you, James?
Well, first time around, I did this trip my freshman year, so 2 trips ago, and I wasn't sure about it. I mean, I was like, my friends are going, so I might as well. And that first time around, it was a blast. It was awesome. And I was like, the impact that we were having was really cool because I hadn't really thought about how much of an impact we really were making. Because day by day, new experiences were happening. I was like, this is awesome. I haven't been away from home and an experience like this. And it was just so good that I decided to come again. And I felt like the impact that we made was even greater than the first time. Even if we had a smaller group, the time before was how many kids would you say, Rob?
It was a similar number.
13,
yeah.
Yeah, but it felt like we had less people, but we made more of an impact, and it's just it was an awesome experience, and I'm glad, and I'd love to do it again.
So give me an overview. What were some of the things that you did this year on the trip? I think Robin mentioned there were the community days that you guys were able to be part of. What kinds of things did you do to serve Gospel Hope in the community?
Well, one part of it was we would go around and go hang up these door hangers on doors, which was really cool because we would knock on the doors, and if they answered, we would ask them, can we pray for you? Is there anything we can pray about? And also, here's information about this church, and we're trying to expand this church. And it was really cool with these conversations on just doorsteps. I didn't think that gospel conversations could come from just knocking on your door. Like, I've seen so much of God's work shown through it. And that's just like one small part of the role that we played. Like, I think my favorite part was definitely serving in the park, because I was helping with the parking, and it was really fun watching people yell at other people who were being stupid on the road. And it was just a cool environment because you could just go around and see a bunch of people in the park. And I loved also serving in snow cones. That was really fun. I got to snack a couple of those. And it was just a really cool environment, and I really enjoyed it.
So what made you decide to go, Lillian?
The Lord has kind of placed missions on my heart probably since I was 13. And so every single time that there's been opportunity for me to go, I'm like, oh, I have to do it. And it was really interesting. The first time they went to Utah, I was like, oh, I really want to go. Like, that'd be super interesting. And I went to the Michigan trip, but like the Utah trip, the first time they went, I was like, I really want to go to it. And like the Lord was just like telling me to be patient. And he kind of like slowly revealed to me it wasn't his timing for me to go yet. And I was like so disappointed. I was like, but I want to go. You know, I want to do missions. Like, you placed it on my heart. Like, why place it on my heart and not let me have the opportunity to go? And so I was so disappointed because I really wanted to go. And then they went the next summer, or they brought up that they were going to go back again. And I was like, okay, like I see where he was like moving and working. And like the Lord started revealing to me where he was growing me and preparing me for the trip. And so as I was on the trip, it was really sweet to see. I was like, okay, like had I gone last year, I probably wasn't prepared enough to go. Like mentally, I probably just wouldn't have been able to handle like the spiritual warfare and darkness that's in the area. And just the way he's even just prepared me in confidence and just having conversations with people. But it was so sweet. I really enjoyed the opportunity to be able to go, and maybe I'll be able to go next year. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I love that the Lord in his timing prepared and planned ahead in advance what was going to get each of you ready to go, whether it was friends that had a similar need to the population that you were able to serve there, or just a burden for missions, or just a love for the body of Christ and be able to serve alongside them. And there might be some of our listeners who are thinking about trips that are coming up that they want to go on as well. So is STUMIN going to have another missions trip this next year, Rob?
We're thinking about it. No, definitely.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we can grow that group a little bit more. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm excited to hear more of the specific stories of some of the things that God did during your trip to Utah.
Hey, UBC. If you're listening to this and want to learn more about our student ministry and youth group, go to ubcbeavercreek.com/students. You can also find the link in the podcast notes. Now, back to the episode.
Well, we are back, and we are talking with some of the team that was in Riverton, Utah this summer that are part of our STUMIN ministry at UBC. And we've been excited to hear about how God led you to go on this trip. I imagine that whether this was the second time that you'd been to Utah or your first time on a missions trip, that there might have been some anxieties or nerves about going. Was there anything that you were anxious or worried about before the trip that was an obstacle that you had to overcome, or maybe one that came up while you were there that you had to work through?
I would say for me, like, I like to talk to people, but it is so awkward just approaching random people in a park and just, so what do you think about God? Or what do you think about Jesus? And then just hoping they don't hate you for it, or just like, I don't know, like in my brain, like it's like you want to over exaggerate everything and like, oh, they're gonna be so angry at you, or they're gonna start yelling at you. Like, what are these people gonna do? But like, everybody was so civil about all the conversations. It was actually pretty sweet. And like, they would engage in most of the conversations and answer questions truthfully. And so it really wasn't that big of an issue. I just made it out to be more of one than what it actually was.
So what helped you to be able to have that first ask when you walked up to a stranger? That was probably the hardest one, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Just Jesus. I mean, I was with Allie for the first time, and we're like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And so we just like kind of walked slowly and kind of awkwardly. And we like laughed about it. We're probably like, these people think we're probably crazy. Like, why are they just walking slowly over to us? But it helped because it was like a mom and then like her little daughter, and the little daughter, her name was also Lily, and she thought it was so great that we shared the same name. And so like she was kind of like the icebreaker, and so she was just kind of like, oh, Lily, and then was like talking about something, and so like we were able to have a good conversation with like her mom and grandma, but then she would just like randomly interject and just talk about like, you know, how cool she thought it was that we shared the same name.
The Lord in his kindness gave you that little bridge to be able to make that feel more comfortable.
It was so sweet.
That's cool. How about for you others? Anything that was an obstacle?
I felt exactly the same because I'm a very, very loud and outgoing person. Okay, Faith.
In the test.
But if you put me in like on someone's doorstep, knocking on it to just have a conversation, I tried getting other people to do it, which once I took that first step, I was like, YOLO, let's do this. Like, I'm not going to regret this, hopefully. And when I do it, like, I think the first time, like, around that I was talking, some mom opened her door and 2 of her kids came flooding out. And she was just, like, really open to the church idea. And she seemed like she really wanted to go. I was like, okay, maybe this isn't as hard as as I put it out to be. And it just felt like easier to talk to people. I mean, I just went into that mode of, wait, I'm loud. I'm like, I'm loud and I'm outgoing, so might as well be loud and outgoing here. So
yeah,
it was really fun.
Sometimes I think we think brave means not being scared, but brave's more of the being willing to do it scared. And the Lord showed up in that and helped you through that. Anything for you, Faith?
I was definitely terrified to talk to people and to go on a plane.
That one was...
Yeah, I know. I mean...
We heard some screaming.
Well, there was never some screaming on the way back when we hit turbulence. I was real loud. I was pretty convinced I was going to die. But yeah.
Everybody on the plane thought that.
It was a lot of that.
Just ask Simon.
There was a student that didn't turn his phone off. And so it thought we were in a car accident or something, so it started going, meh, 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 meh.
My.
Everybody just started in this panic, waiting for oxygen masks to fall down.
Asking people if they're okay.
Saying their prayers. And
You guys had some gospel opportunities right there that were unexpected. How about for you, Rob? I think sometimes we think like the students going on the trip have obstacles to overcome, but as leaders, there probably are some too.
Yeah, I think there, it's always fun for me it's like a big ask to tell you guys, hey, we're going to go to Salt Lake City, Utah, and you're not going to build houses. You're not going to do all this incredible stuff with your hands. Like, you're literally going to share the gospel. Like, every day you're going to reach people. You're going to have gospel conversations, and to see like 11 of our students just going to say, okay, I'm in. To me, that's crazy. Because when I was in high school, I'd be like, I'm not interested in that. Like, give me something I can do with my hands, I'll do that. But have to talk to people, no, not so much. And so it's just always so fun for me to see how you guys, even in just having that first conversation, and you realize like, I didn't die. I was nervous. I survived. And I had a great conversation with somebody about the gospel. It's so fun to see that kind of transformation, those light bulbs go off, and see you guys just get energized to do that. I think Faith, all of us were at lunch that one day. You guys had shared the gospel a couple times, and then all of a sudden you guys see like 4 Mormon missionaries like come through the doors of In-N-Out Burger, and a couple of you just like give me this look, and I'm like, guys, I'm eating my lunch here. And then you go,
this whole time we were prepared for the trip to talk to Mormons.
Yeah.
And then all of the conversations we had, we only talked to ex-Mormons or atheists, and then some like other random religions or minorities. And so we're like, all we know is how to talk to Mormons. That's what we're preparing to do. Where are these Mormons at? So these Mormons walk into In-N-Out, these Mormon missionaries are like, guess this is our opportunity. It was so funny.
Yeah, it was. And so you guys were just chomping at the bits. You didn't care if you finished your lunch or not. You're just ready to go in and let's have a conversation right here at In-N-Out Burger. And I'm like, guys, at least give them a couple minutes to just, eat their food, take a little break from their day. And then, and you guys like set timers on your watches and your phones. And you're like, all right, 10 minutes and then it's up. And then literally somebody's alarm went off and they're like, Rob, I'm going in. And I'm like, I'm praying for you.
You were ready.
You were.
I was ready. Hot take, In-N-Out is like disgusting. So I was ready to be done eating the food just because it's awesome.
It's okay
Those
to
are
be
fighting
wrong.
words right there. You might have some resistance.
You just didn't know what to order. But
It's all the same stuff.
Yeah, they have one thing. It's a burger.
yeah.
Get a strawberry milkshake and it'll change your life.
But I think like for those are obstacles like one, to get you to go on the trip, knowing that you're going to have to share the gospel, actually doing it. And like, as an obstacle that can just kind of move out of the way. Because once you do it, you're like, oh, I can survive. I can do this. But then there were other things that kind of happened on the trip. I think it was the middle of the week when we were on our way to the church for the morning, sitting at a red light, and we got rear-ended by a car behind us that just added not just a delay, but goodness. I mean, this could have been worse, but thank goodness we're all safe. We can drive the van for the rest of the week, and it's more of just like a headache dealing with the logistics of turning in the rental car and all of that stuff, but praising God for his goodness in the midst of what could have been so much worse or could have ruined a trip in some ways. And we were able, by the goodness of God, we were all able to just continue, not even just that day, but the rest of the trip with no injuries. And I mean, it was incredible to see God's goodness in that. So I think at the same time, anytime you go on a trip and your goal is to share the gospel, you're going to meet obstacles, you're going to meet spiritual warfare. And I think there were times on the trip when you guys were like, it just feels so dark here. And maybe we didn't even see like spiritual warfare in certain ways that we would think we would see spiritual warfare, but when you go somewhere and you know that evangelical Christianity is made up 2% of the population, it feels lonely. It can feel dark. It can feel like, you know what you're doing. You want to share the gospel here because you want to change things. But it also kind of just puts into perspective, like the pastors that are there, how lonely they could be obstacle wise, like just dealing with their kids maybe in youth group, and they might be the only kid in youth group. So some of those things were interesting to see, I think, on the trip.
There were some known obstacles that you were going to face, the nerves of going up and talking to strangers about the gospel or about spiritual things. And then sounds like some unknown ones that popped up too. Car accident, turbulence on the plane. And I imagine that in hindsight, the Lord didn't waste any of that. He used all those circumstances, the planned things and the unplanned things in your lives and the lives of the people that were watching too. So in thinking about ways that you saw God move during the trip, what were some impactful conversations you had or some places where you were able to see God at work in the midst of the darkness?
Well, there was a senior who went on a trip with us, Charlie Freeman, and me and him, we were out surveying in the park, and we were going around trying to find people, asking them about what they like in Salt Lake City and like what faith they belong to. And me and Charlie walked up to this one guy who was coming out of a workout. This dude, jacked, like biggest dude I've ever seen. And we started talking to him. We offered him a water, and he was telling us how he just finished with calisthenics in the park, and we could tell. We could really tell. And we started talking to him about actually like calisthenics and working out. And then it led into a gospel conversation. And we asked this guy, like, what do you think, like, what he thought he believed? And we found out that like recently he got into a car accident and it like messed up his back. He had to get discs in his back or something. And so he was like trying to fully recover from that. And like he was using working out as a way of like coping with that and fixing himself. And his whole life, I don't remember what his parents' faith was. I think they were Mormons, because like he grew up in the Salt Lake City area. But he told us how he grew up Mormon, but then at the age of 14, he left the church because of some thing that happened with his parents. I think they got divorced. And it led to him just like going out and finding his own faith. So for like 20 years of his life, he's been searching for a faith. Like he's been doing so much research. And it's actually really like empowering, like how much work he's put into research. Like he told us how he's like reading the Ethiopian Bible recently. Like he was going through like everything. He's tried Catholicism, Hinduism, all this stuff. Like he told us how he went to all these churches, And we asked him, was like, how do you feel about like the Christian faith? Like, you've heard about it. He's like, you've done your research. He's like, yeah, I tried once, but I wasn't really sure. I couldn't find the right church. And so we were like, well, there's actually a church around the corner. I don't remember if the one that we were at was Gospel Peace or Gospel Hope around the corner.
No, it was Gospel Grace, the one called
Gospel Grace. There are a lot of gospel churches, but
family of churches.
yeah, it's a big family. And we pointed him to it, and we had these life books at our table. And so I was like, Charlie, I'm going to go grab one. So I went to go grab it. And I was like, here, his name was, I think it was Josh. Yeah, it was Josh. And I was like, you've been doing a lot of research. I was like, this book has some information that you might not have seen somewhere else. So I gave it to him. I was like, if you want to research on that, here you go. He's like, yeah, I'll actually give it a shot. And we gave him directions to the closest church, and he said he'd check it out. So hopefully something stuck out with Josh. And it was like really cool seeing how a conversation can go from just calisthenics all the way to like maybe even planting a seed in him and seeing where that can grow. And I really hope something stuck with Josh, and I hope that he found peace in his time of searching.
Yeah, sounds like he's been searching for something bigger and better than religion.
Yeah.
And what you offered could give him a relationship with the God of the universe. So different than what the Mormon faith offers or many of the other religious systems around us.
For sure.
How about you guys? Any in moments or interactions that stand out?
There was a woman Reagan and I talked to. She's also a senior. And we were starting the conversation because it was like a loose survey almost, just kind of get conversation flowing. And like as soon as we approached her, she was like really intent about talking. She was like really okay with it. And she's like, it's just a funny thing. I was at another park and I was running and I just felt like I should come to this one. And we're like, how interesting. And so we continued our conversation, and then we kind of went from talking about like Salt Lake City and all those things to more like the religious side of things. And she come to find out she had a lot of church hurt with the Mormon church, which was kind of common. But she was a Black woman, and there's a lot of racism in Mormonism. And so she dealt with a lot of that, and just, why is a church that claims to be so loving and accepting, like, hate me for some reason? And so she left the church, and I think her parents still stayed. And so there was a lot of division between her and her family, like why she left. And, she said that she believed that there was some higher power, which was another common thing with a lot of the people we talked to, but they just didn't know what that meant for her. And so we were like talking about things, and then we started talking about Jesus and just asking questions about good and evil. And then we like bring up Jesus, and she's like starts feeling really nauseous and sick. And then Reagan and I kind of like freak out, like, what is going on right now? And so we sat down and we started talking to her. And then we asked if we could pray over her when we were done talking, like bring up the gospel and stuff. And she's like, yeah, I would love if you prayed with me. And so we prayed over her, and she's like, yeah, it's just really weird. Like, again, like, I don't really know why I came to this park. Like, I was running at a different one, and I just felt like I should come and finish my run here. So I came here, and it was like really interesting just to like see how like the Lord is so intentional, and he just, I feel like we often assume that like the Lord only works in like the hearts of Christians and people who believe in him. But obviously, like, in order for him to draw people to himself, he has to be working in their lives too. And it was just so interesting to see like where the Lord was like almost like knocking on her heart, like open up, like, let me in,
Yeah. Sounds like the experience for you has been that like God came to you through people who introduced him to you at a young age within your family. So for you to be able to see God drawing others was powerful. Like that idea that we have a God that seeks us out and comes for us is something you really tangibly saw in those interactions with who he placed in your path. Anything stand out for you, Faith?
One of my favorite things we did was prayer on the porch. And that was just like going up to doors and knocking on them and asking if there's any way that we could pray for people. And my group, it was me, Silas, and Allie. And we had like 16 or 17 different people open their doors. Like almost every single house we knocked on, we opened their doors. So that was pretty awesome. And I thought it was cool, the willingness of the people's, whose doors we knocked on to pray with us, because most of them were Mormon. So we would end up praying for like people's children who were on LDS missions. Like we were praying for them, which is interesting. And I remember praying for one lady. I don't know what was going on or what she was going through in that moment, but I remember when we finished praying, she was just like crying her eyes out. and she just seemed really, really moved. And I thought that was cool, how something even as simple as just a prayer could move her that much.
Anything for you, Rob, that was a moment that really stands out from the trip?
I'm trying to think, because I mean, there were a bunch of those moments. You guys had shared how the In-N-Out experience wasn't that great as far as the burger goes, but there were just lots of moments where, as your youth director, looking around and just watching you engage and be used by God was just incredible. And I think we prepped so much learning about the Mormon faith before we went on the trip. But then at the same time, like you guys shared, before that experience at In-N-Out, we had met 8 different people from 8 different religions. And we met a lot of atheists as well who have, people have grown up in the Mormon church, but decided, hey, this isn't for me because of different reasons. And so they became atheistic, but they were, is interesting so much to see though, how open people were. Like Lily, you shared that here I am going to have this conversation and this person going to yell at me or do something. And I think 99% of the conversations you guys had may have started awkward for you guys. Like, oh, how am I going to even open up this conversation? But God, you brought this person here. And then just even saying hello or talking to the person, they would engage. And so those were really cool for me to see how you guys would, or we're just not used to having those conversations here in Ohio. But then at the same time, we go somewhere else, we can do it. And people opened up and had those conversations.
And it was just so different than the Michigan trip too, because the Michigan trip was so focused on just serving, and we volunteered at more places. And I kind of went in the mindset we're going to mission trip, we're going to have gospel conversations. And then we went there and it was just, we ministered more to the other students that went on the team or went to it than the actual people in the community, which was so interesting. We were ministering to the volunteers with the organization we were there with. And it was just so interesting how it was I don't think I talked very much with other people in the community, but how God still used that as a way to show himself to us. And I mean, they weren't necessarily maybe gospel conversations, but just a way to remind people of community, and just, I don't know. It was really interesting just how different it was.
Yeah.
That verse about some planting, some watering, but God giving the increase has been going through my mind as I'm listening to you all. And it sounds like you had a lot of opportunities to do some planting and watering, and are able to trust the Lord for that increase as he uses what you started them down that journey of thinking about. And maybe you weren't the first to bring that up to them, but you were part of that process of them possibly being drawn towards accepting the gospel. So Rob, you mentioned 99% of the time people were amenable to these conversations you tried to have. I'm kind of curious, what did you do with that 1% where you didn't get a gracious response?
I think the 1% were all the conversations that I had, because and I mean, I was up front and told you, I learned 2 years ago, people didn't want to have conversations with me because they figured, I was probably a pastor, I was up to something, all that stuff. But then they would just engage with you guys. And so I think, I was probably the 1% every time. Anytime it was crash and burn, nope, sorry, I got to be somewhere. And then they'd make it 20 feet and they would just sit down and talk with you guys. I'm really?
Your job was to be that funnel to send them out to the rest.
It was also interesting because my group, when we did the prayer walks or whatever, not the prayer walks, the porch prayers, we had such a different experience than everybody else. There was more people who didn't answer than who did. And when they did answer, it was oh, how can we pray for you? And basically all of them were I don't know, rain. Oh, okay. And so we prayed for rain. And ironically enough, the day that nobody would want it to rain, on the 4th of July parade, when everybody's having fun outside, that's the day it poured down rain. And that was so interesting. But it was and the Lord answered their prayer, but it was just so funny how it was rain. And they would just basically on their facial expressions, just leave and get off my porch. But
I love that God showed his power even in that, though, that you're all right, we'll pray for rain. And he brought rain while you were still here.
And we pulled the weather app out because we're wondering how long is this rain going to happen? It didn't even show that it was raining on the weather app or there was rain in the area, but it was a downpour. And I'm talking to the pastor. I'm how's come the weather app says it's not even raining here? He's that's just kind of how it happens. It just comes out of nowhere and then it goes away. Right. Whoa.
So it sounds like there were some powerful moments, but you didn't just show up without any preparation. It also sounds like Rob said you did some work to get ready to go on this trip. So what were some of the things that you did to train, or some skills that you tried to work on pre-trip?
I have 2 different books that I read. I read half of both the books because I lost them after reading half of the books, both of them. So that's pretty fun. And it was a lot of talking to my friends and asking them about the religion. I wasn't always trying to share the gospel with them in those conversations, but really just trying to learn about the LDS church and their faith. So I think that helped a lot, and that prepared me a lot, because then I could kind of more or less expect what the missionaries were going to say, because I'd heard it from people from their church. So that was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not much of a reader, so I'm not as initiative as Faith is. But I mean, as a group, we met together and we would research, and we would have talks about Mormon faith and what we're going to do. And that kind of helped me set my mindset to be ready for this trip. And I mean, since I've already done it before, I didn't have to do as much preparation, but I did some mental preparation, and I got in that mindset that we're going to make a difference no matter if there's rain or if there's sunshine. We're still going to make an impact no matter what. And so I was just like, let's do this. So
Friendly parking attendants.
Stupid people on the road.
Were you on parking?
Yeah, with Isaiah.
So you got to meet some of the people that were not real thrilled, because you'd be like, hey, you don't have a pass, you can't park here, buddy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think I watched a lot of videos just of conversations people were having with other LDS missionaries, and just seeing other, evangelical missionaries having conversations with them, and just watching videos that LDS people were posting about their faith and stuff, just to get an unbiased view of what they're what they believe. And then honestly, just a lot of prayer, and just the Lord's gonna guide our steps. And just how funny it was. We can prepare all we want, but the Lord's still gonna be faithful and still guide our steps. And I can plan all I want to talk to Mormons and only talk to Mormons at one time. But I don't know. I just think it's interesting how the Lord still prepares our hearts for these things, whether or not we're intentionally planning for these things.
What's something interesting that you learned about the Mormon faith, or something maybe that surprised you about a difference in their religious system?
I feel like Mormons don't have that much of an urgency to share the gospel, because they believe almost everyone goes to heaven. So if you're talking to them and they and you just don't see them very open or willing to listening to what they have to say, they don't care. They're not bothered by it. We know if you don't accept this, you're not going to heaven. They don't really care what you pick. They just, maybe want you to join their church, and okay if you don't. So I thought that was interesting.
There's just a lot of little things that they believe that just set me off. For instance, one thing that's always been what is the having your own kingdom belief that they have. And I've even talked to one of my Mormon friends, his name's Reese, and he I asked him, I was like, do you believe this? Because I was having a genuine conversation, a friendly, I wouldn't say debate, but we were sharing both our beliefs. And I was like, well, do you believe in the ascending and becoming your own God of your own kingdom? He's like, oh no, I actually don't believe that. And I was like, really? And it's crazy how different each Mormon believes. It's doctrines, but they don't stick to that doctrine. It just shows how loose the faith is for a majority of them. And it's weird to see how different it is across states, because in Utah it was very very whole, because the LDS church was pretty much centered there. But going a couple states away, it's weird seeing how much doctrine has been lost throughout that. So I just thought it was weird.
I don't want to make any assumptions that all of our listeners maybe know what's different about the message that you all were taking to Utah with you. So what would you want our listeners to know about the urgency that there is for the gospel? What is the gospel?
Well, one thing I thought that was also interesting about their faith, which leads into your question, is that Jesus didn't necessarily die to save them for their sins. It was that Jesus died so that they could become like him and to become gods. And so, I mean, that's not why Jesus died. And so, their faith is very works-based, and I can just do all of these good things and it's not going to matter because either way I'm going to go to heaven. Whereas, and we talked to some sisters at the convention center, and we're asking about heaven and hell, and they're like, oh, we don't really know about hell. Like, I've never been there. I couldn't say what it's like. And we're like, interesting. And so again, that's like, there's not that urgency and that like understanding where it's like, you can't, one, earn your way to heaven, and two, you can't become like God in that sense. Like, you're not going to become a God of yourself, and their God is always different. He's changing, and he's not the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so they lack that consistency between different believers. It's just subjective and whatever they want it to be, which is not right. So I don't know.
You're able to offer them that distinction that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and that he offers them forgiveness for their sin debt, meaning they don't have anything to repay anymore, and they can be free and become like Christ. And that's a worthy goal, not to become a God, but to worship the God of the universe forever. So imagine that some of this experience impacted you in ways when you got back. So what are some ways that you're different after this trip?
Well, me personally, I had like other things happen after the trip that like kind of led and like kind of fit with the impact or like the effect that I took from the trip. And it was actually like a really big like movement in my life, because my whole life I realized that like in STUMIN, like Rob's talked about lukewarm Christianity. And I mean, like I took it with like a grain of salt. Like I'm not a lukewarm Christian. Like I believe in God. But after this trip and other things, I just like, I stopped that lukewarm lifestyle, and I realized like I can be a full follower of God and not have, like, I would always be afraid that I'd have to give up parts of my life that like meant a lot to me. But I realized those things don't mean as much as they do as God means to me. And I've like been able to like live my life fully for him. And it's really like, I felt God's peace that I hadn't had for a majority of my life. Even though I called myself a believer for 10 years, I found like my true faith.
That's awesome.
I feel like the Lord really growed in me a boldness to just have hard conversations, and to almost not take myself so seriously when having conversations with people. And so like, I'm more open to just talking to random people at the grocery store or whatever it is. And my parents are like, why are you talking to those random people? Like what are you doing? But it's just like, I don't see it as weird anymore. It's just like, 1 week of just talking to strangers, and now it's all I want to do is talk to strangers. And maybe not all of my gospel conversations, but just like talking to people and just being open and genuine with people. And I don't know, it's just like really interesting to see. And
it's countercultural. Like we grow up training our kids to what? Not talk to strangers.
Just mind your business.
Yeah,
right. And they're like, oh, well, you can't really necessarily maybe tell you not to. I mean, you are 18 now. And I'm like, yeah, but it's like one of those things that's like, I don't fear those things anymore. It's like, if it's God's will for something to happen, it's God's will. And so it's like, I don't fear something to happen because it's God will bring me through those things. And so, we're all like stuck up and worried about all these like issues that may or may not arise. And I'm like, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. Like, God's plan is like better and bigger than my idea of what may or may not happen. But
he's wired us for connection and relationship, and the people that we pass by in our busyness of every day are looking for someone to see them. And so in little ways, you're able to show up and do that, even if it's just shopping at the grocery store. Anything for you, Faith?
I think one of the ways it changed me was just seeing that one of the biggest impacts we had was when we were helping, like with the parade and the festival and just doing acts of service. So just seeing that the way I choose to live my life and the way I, speak in the little acts of service that I can do for people here at home, definitely, I feel like shows that I'm a Christian a lot more than just saying that I am. Like, it's not based off of works, but when you see Christianity in someone's life, it means a lot more. So I think living like a Christian back at home definitely helps.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that scripture, like faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
So it's like you can say all you want that you're a Christian, but kind of like what James said, it's like he called himself a Christian for 10 years. And it wasn't until he fully experienced Christ that he was like, I am a Christian now. And then he started like showing it, acting like that. You have to bear fruit in order to like almost show that.
Yeah.
When God saves us, he changes us, and he doesn't do it all at once. It's that 1 degree at a time under the likeness of Christ. And it's beautiful to see those degrees of change that the Lord used in this trip in each of your lives. So I imagine some of our youth listening or some of our families listening might be wondering about going on a trip themselves someday. What would you say to a fellow student from STUMIN that might be thinking about going on this trip next year?
Do it.
I would say do it, but also heed the Lord's timing for it. That's something that I had to learn is like, it sounds exciting to do something, but if you generally don't think it's the Lord's timing for you to do it, then like, as hard as it is to like let that go, it's like, it's okay. Cause like the Lord has something bigger and better for you. But then once he reveals himself to you and reveals his timing for you, then like absolutely jump in and go do it. Like, it's so sweet.
And when you do it, like when you feel it's God's timing, don't second guess it, because you're not going to regret anything that you do on that trip, because like nothing you do for God's glory will make you regret it, and you'll actually take so much out of it. And I just say, like, if you're even considering it, you probably should do it.
I'd say go into it knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable at times, but it is so worth it, because we are furthering the kingdom of God, and the impact we're making is eternal. So it is worth it.
Yeah. So cool. Cause even just like we have the intro, we have the information meeting, we talk about the cost of a trip, and sometimes we lose some kids because they're like, I don't know about all that money. And that's kind of like, they look at it and they're thinking, can we really afford this? And what we always see every year is just God's faithfulness in providing not just the money, but providing all of those things, the things that we're worried about, the obstacles that we see. God constantly provides and goes before us and prepares the way, prepares our hearts, and prepares the hearts of the people as well. And one of the coolest things is just seeing how these trips change students' lives. James, to hear you tell the story about, sharing the gospel on the trip, but then probably a month later after the trip, I'm at your high school, set up a table for the involvement fair for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I'm looking down at the table, and I pop my head up and I look and see you about 10 feet away from me with a life book, sharing the gospel with one of your peers. And I'm thinking, holy cow, this is awesome. Because if I would have seen you like 2-3 years ago in middle school thinking, is James Shell going to be sharing the gospel in Beaver Creek High School? In my mind, my first thought was like, who knows? Maybe not. But it's incredible to see how God works in your lives, and faith for you to have the relationships like with your friends who are of a different faith than you is really cool. That you can, did your friends even know that you were on this missions trip? Did some of them know?
Some of them did, and they always had an interesting reaction when I told them that I was going on a mission trip to share the gospel with Mormons. Yeah. They're like, really?
Right.
Okay.
Because it was so interesting to be on the trip with you and be like, hey, this missionary told me this. And then you would like pick up the phone and you'd be texting your friend and be like, hey, what do you believe about this? And, so it was almost like you weren't just sharing the gospel in Salt Lake City with these Mormon missionaries. You were also, by default, sharing the gospel with your friends in Beaver Creek, Ohio, because you're asking them what they think about this thing and having a conversation with them at the same time. So you sharing the gospel, like twofold, multiplying conversations just by asking those questions of your friends and finding answers. And Lily, it's so cool to hear how you went on this trip and had these tough conversations, and now you like to talk to strangers and have these conversations. Like this is what we want, because we go into these things and we're like, is God gonna work? And sometimes like we don't see the results aspect like on the trips, but we see the transformative aspect in what he's doing in your lives and how he's preparing you for the good works that you are going to do, whether it's on this trip or furthering your faith to do that right here when you get home. And it's so cool to see.
There's no doubt that you all left a little piece of your heart in Utah, and I think you brought a piece of Utah and the heart that is for the gospel, they're back here with you too. But how can we at UBC and Gospel Heights be praying for Utah?
I would say probably just that more people would be sent to the area, and then just boldly proclaim Christ and not be ashamed of the gospel.
Well, more recently, there's been like a huge Christian revival happening, and it's like really cool. And I don't know how it's like happening in Utah, but I just hope that revival like reaches the hearts of like not just the Mormons, but the atheists, the people who are struggling in Utah, because that is like a place of like pinpoint, like if it hits there, then we could really go far. Like as followers of Christ, it's just, I hope that can reach in anything that we do or any other churches, because we're not the only people going to Utah. There are plenty of other churches going, and I pray that we genuinely do make an impact there, because it's scary. It's kind of scary in Utah how blind people are, and I just hope that their eyes can be open to the truth of God and the gospel.
Yeah, so it sounds like that prayer for the gospel flame to be fanned in Utah, but also a little bit of a challenge there too, James, that we need to fan that flame of revival and the gospel here at home. And we never know how that's going to ignite and grow and allow the gospel to again reach some of those people that you've already had interactions with and conversations. Well, this has been a rich conversation, guys. Thank you so much for sharing parts of your experience and your journey that you had. And I'm excited to see how God continues to use each of you in your schools and shopping trips and all the other things that the Lord places you in back here at home. I hope this has been encouraging to our listeners as well. And I'm going to echo what James said. Just please continue how the Lord might use you to make him known in your home, in your community, in your school, in the world. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time, another episode of Talking Points.